It seems that I was not the only one given purpose by what I saw.
Then I've been tasked with killing the intellect assassin and bringing the blade to get destroyed by Leon. And going by what I've heard of the blade, with it potentially attracting a lot of trouble for us with holding such a weapon, may be the smarter result.
I
You're
would
told.
rather have us destroy it than bring it to Leon to destroy it.
Yes.
Can't really trust him anymore. He's working for the Lich King.
If it can be destroyed so simply, we have we have powerful allies who can do such without delivering it in the hands of the Lich King.
What did you see happening when Leon had the blade? Would that aid in him returning to your side?
Tempus looks. Take a deep breath. No. He just promised me he would show me more of the world, give me answers.
It seems that I was not the only one given temptation by what I saw.
I could show you the world.
Magical splendor.
What defines us is that we do not give in to such temptation. If we were to acquire the blade, I would once more restate my wish that it be sent to the elves, where it could be protected, as there are greater and more dangerous things there being protected, for similar reasons.
In any case, we would not bring it to Leon.
Looks to Geráck. Are you quite alright?
Yes, I'm fine. Just not what I was expecting.
For some, the tests we're given can be quite trying. But you did not open your eyes, so I take it that you passed.
I did not, though I was close to doing so.
I must not. I imagined that was a part of it. For all of us.
Perhaps.
God, how long does it take to get to the heights from the Arcane College? Curiosity.
The heights?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a half hour or so by foot. If only because of the condition of the streets right now, which, looking outside the Arcane College, the city is in a bit of a bleak state. With its martial law stance. And the city is most likely triple the population, over 6 digits worth of people, due to so many people fleeing from neighboring towns and cities here.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes, in a city that's maybe comfortable with handling, you know, like the city already had an entire sector of it devoted to people coming to it. Like an entire slum section. Now that's pretty much 3/4 of the city. With the heights being severely walled and highly protected.
Mm-hmm.
It perhaps is only a matter of time before the walls of the heights are actually busted open.
And the hungry storm in to ravage them.
A revolution-like mentality.
They sit in there and eat their gourmet food.
In which case, that's the conditions Jasmine sees outside.
Aranas looks out and is once again reminded that this place is out of balance.
Yes. Jasmine has an intimate connection with Newport.
He does.
And the city is in a severely fragile state right now, as is the Empire as a whole, which makes her purpose, and her existence all the more necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Should there come war with the druids, this place will be the first one to fall.
Yes, it will. There are many here who need us. We are the ones responsible for keeping them here, keeping them safe.
After 17-18 minutes, Tempus will return to the main hall, Astrid following behind. The wizard, he does look uncomfortable in his outfit, and looking at all of you in your current states, the nervousness now is more apparent to more than just Aurelia. Alright, I hope you've had sufficient time to recover.
Quite sufficient, I should say.
Flashes a weak smile. The first time I hear is always rough, but should we ever need to do so again, or should you in the future, well, it always is a pain to move so many people in such a short time. That's why, well, really, it's not done across the Empire. At any rate, I've acquired the horses, so we should get going. We have some distance to cover, and leaving the city in its current state may be for the best. I don't want us to have to harm anyone.
Jasmine frowns deeply.
I don't think there would be any cause to.
These people are desperate.
Yes, they are desperate, and while I would not kill them, I do not want to cause them pain. Our purpose is necessary, and he looks out through one of the windows at the packed city streets. More important than them taking our belongings.
Let us move then. The druids have great need of us.
Yes, that's the sounds of people moving. Good work. I like the roleplay. Alright. The group gathers up and heads outside. The horses are not of the best quality. But they are horses, and they do, as a matter of fact, move quicker than all of you non-golem people do. Of course, you still can't run at a full gallop. Not that you might want to with these quality of horses. Still, they do lead you, or they do get you out of the Arcane College, and do help you through the city streets. All along you, around you are perhaps half-starved, desperate and disheveled-looking refugees who've come pouring in from all over the region, seeking bites to eat and shelter, and all. Several of you have reputations here as saviors and protectors. Geráck Zold, who has been so charitable in his time and his efforts to the people here, and Aurelia, who has a reputation too, and most assuredly Jasmine Rose of House Vayne.
Mm-hmm.
People clamoring out, trying to, some being so brave as to try and crowd around the horses, asking for help, asking for anything, whether it be food or water, or like getting into the heights, or place to stay, or something like a resolution, a way to make this right, because they can't. Many are intimidated off by the marble golem, despite their desperation. Perhaps Tempus wants it that way.
Well, God, as we're moving through all of this, there is one thing I would like to try.
Okay.
I mean, Jasmine knows personally just trying to give stuff out is not going to be the best way here. They'll get more people crowding around them. It will just get worse. But she does, in fact, have her Belt of the City of Newport.
She does.
Which, as one of its abilities, is the following. You may nudge the city in some way, it's so much even so changing the mood, one way or another, or trying to push it.
Okay.
Trying to give the city maybe a bit more stability and hope in it, at least only even if it only lasts for a short time, try and keep the city resolute, and able to try and hold together, band together and use some unity.
Yeah. The belt can certainly help you do that with these people. Seeing Jasmine, in particular, is enough to move many of these people to tears. Simply beholding her, and the exquisite grace with which she carries herself. Nobles don't have a great reputation, but her specifically, she is a savior of Newport. And she has done so much for these people. Many end up crowding around just to for the hopes of children will suddenly brag about having brushed against her horse or even her arm as she is moved through the city streets. The mood does change to one less desperation, but Jasmine would know full well through the belt that these people are going to need more than that glimmer to carry them through what the Empire is facing.
Mm-hmm.
But it does ameliorate the problem.
It helps for now. She has nothing she can do to fix this.
The Band-Aid.
She feels bad for these people. She knows she's been here for a long... Most of her life has been spent here or in the field, and all her time here has had important memories to her. The city has shaped her as who she is, and equally so, she has shaped the city. She just hopes it survives all this.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling through the city streets does take some time, now more so with basically people who want to gather just to see Jasmine. That being said, unless you want to do anything else, you can eventually make your way out of the city, exiting the southern gates.
Then we should.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving is a bit more of a problem, if only because the city walls and gates are sealed, and there are lines of refugees outside. And instead of a shanty town being inside the city walls, it's now expanded to cover a vast blanket of land around the City of Opportunity itself. Taraptus, for his part, says little. A severely gruff face, his pipe is not in view, and he bites his lip on more than one occasion.
Jasmine's most certainly doing the same, trying to hold her resolution, her outward image to everyone, but it's for those who are especially close to her, you can certainly notice this is hard for her not to just get off and try and do something right now.
Aranas, as we sort of ride, you'll sense the sort of desperation and emotion, and that sort of vibe has a cultural, almost a cultural memory for the elven folk, as once the Dwarven Elven War and the wars prior forced them to retreat from many of their lands. Folk that once wasn't really warlike, retreating until only one, the heart of the old Elven kingdom remained. And he will begin to, at first, sort of quietly sing a song he learned when he was a child. That basically is the song of the refugees leaving their home to go to this distant forest that is now the Queen's Wood, fleeing war and terror, but being sure that no matter where they go, they can never escape. The worst words will likely be lost on his companions and on these people, for it is even an old Elven dialect. But it's sort of, as many Elven songs, has that a very melodic feel to it, and sort of resonates with the nature of whatever place it is in this case, the shanty town and such. perhaps enhancing trying to create perhaps a feeling of unity in the situation that these people are in. Perhaps reminding them a bit through the strange magic of the elven music that they are in this together, if nothing else, and that they should not prey upon one another, but stand strong, and that together they can make their way through this.
Aranas does end up attracting some attention of his own as the group makes their way out of the city proper and does actually is able to travel a bit further and quicker down the road. It is a small group of butterflies, actually, perhaps about 8 in total. They are fluttering off to the side of the road and seem to be keeping pace with the group. Near Aranas, more so than any of the others. While Aranas sings.
He will look to them, but he won't stop, as this side of this much desperation, and probably also the sort of the breaking of the unity, the humans beginning to prey upon one another that follows such desperation is rather moving to him.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, the butterflies do take off and fade into the distance.
Mm-hmm. As we leave the camps, I imagine, sort of as they fade to the distance as well.
Yes.
The song sort of grows slowly down to a more quiet, sort of just a sort of a heavy silence.
Yes.
In contrast.
Priestess Aurelia is obviously uncomfortable. Has been since the teleportation, and remains that way while exiting the city. The others of you have any reaction to leaving the city of Newport and heading south?
Well, Geráck does look a bit distraught at all these people gathering here, and he had thought they have helped the city somewhat by bringing the food and the necessary equipment and whatnot here to the people in the past. But he will see that his efforts were a bit maybe not in vain, because he might have saved some people, but
right.
It didn't help in the end.
Right, there's so many more people, in this case, who've come to Newport.
Yeah.
Hearing of the great fortune and food that they had.
Of course.
But yes, there are quite a number of people that you pass who recognize the radiance and light of Geráck Zold. And all the good that he has done.
If they approach him, he will just say to them that he doesn't have any food to spare, and he doesn't possess anything that could help them.
There are mixture reactions. There is Jasmine, of course, calming people down. But there are some who actually do trust and follow in faith well enough to tell Geráck from the old and young that he does have something that could help them, and that is himself. He's helped in the past, and they don't see how he could not continue to help again with the actions that he's taking. He, that more than anyone else they know, is a visceral sign that goodness and justice has not given up on them, that this world is not falling apart into chaos. And people have seen that through the good deeds and efforts that he's done over his time here.
I may be able to help you through long-term actions, but as of now, I can't help you.
Some people get it, and some people don't.
Yeah.
Never can reason with peasants.
Nope.
Or tradesmen, or, I mean, it's quite a number of people, too. Like, even the upper crust of other towns have fled here. And you will encounter that as you head further south. Villages have been abandoned. for lack of food and other supplies. There are clear signs of people and animals, ravenous and desperate, fighting each other for what remains. Makeshift graves are scattered along the road, along with abandoned belongings as people fled north to Newport. Whenever you do make camp, and there will be some times when, as it turns out, you will end up making camp to rest. Tempus does, excuse me. My greatest regret in this entire campaign is having a character named Teraptus. My single greatest regret. 10 of 10 would change again. He has a tent to sleep in. He's not too concerned about keeping watch, if only because, as it turns out, Astrid the Marble Golem does not sleep. And it's really the only time that he's able to relax, even if those of you cannot. But there will at least be one time during your trip where wild hounds will assault the camp. And that actually would be worth knowing how the group would handle it. They are certainly far below your level and capacity to handle. Like you could easily, dispatch, scores of them. Especially, malnourished, highly desperate animals, looking for food and seeing that opportunity in you. Even if you are insanely well-equipped and have a fucking what the fuck is that marble golem. You will be attacked all the same.
How far are you from the city when this happens?
It would be your second night of traveling. You'd be basically 2 days of riding on horseback. Not full gallop, but having a good pace all the same.
Alright.
Well, Aurelia for one would take what Aranas has said earlier in mind, that we're here on a diplomatic mission, and despite Aurelia not really understanding what the druids might really be all about, she does know that they do care for nature and such, and just because someone is hungry doesn't mean... Just because someone is attacking out of desperation doesn't quite mean that they now have lost their right to live, even if they are just dogs. So, considering that she shouldn't have any problem dispatching dogs, she would probably just knock them out and carry them away.
Sure. With the idea in mind, of course, that something else might find them while they're unconscious and eat them. Matter of nature.
Well, then it at least wasn't their fault. If she can, she'd rather try to scare them away, but if they're too desperate, that just might not be possible.
Yes, that would be the case. They're too desperate. Normally they would be absolutely terrified of Aurelia the moment she fucking throws out any of her abilities.
Yep. Geráck would probably follow in that example to knock them out.
There's
rather than killing
proofs
them.
of this.
Okay.
If they perhaps weren't so desperate, Jasmine might have tried using what knowledge she had of trying to train animals to try and calm them down, but that's not really something she could really use when they're this desperate.
No.
Not reasonably.
Yeah, the only way to calm them down is basically to give them food. And
We don't have that much food.
Nice. You will also encounter fields, along with those villages that are unworked and simply dead. Banditry is pretty much destroyed here in the Newport region. So all those old bandits are gone. But with all the desperation, you imagine that crime has risen up considerably again. Not from, monstrous humanoids or inherently evil individuals, just folks trying to survive.
Yep.
Yes, you're still... Sheep says. As the sheep, as the Australian sheep, lays in the Skype avatar.
So, this certainly shows that the concessions that might be given to the High Druid in terms of territory are truly not so vast. The land here is not gonna bloom again for many years without Druidic aid.
Most assuredly, being here after being in Horizon for, for as long as you folks were, perhaps a week in game time, noticed a sudden drop in temperature. Very noticeable.
Yeah.
It's awkward and cold, and there's still a bit of ice on the ground, even though we're in spring. By the Midland Sea, where it's supposed to be the warmest.
Does Aranas know how villages exist within the Wildwood and the High Druid's territory? How they sort of want people to live with nature?
Would Aranas know?
He's only visited there, sort of a slight for a little while, but perhaps during that he would have inquired as to how they desire there, basically for non-civilization to exist.
The druidic powers, at least with this particular high druid, are harmonious with nature and trying to integrate as much as possible to destroy it as least as possible. That being said, predatorial aspects, most assuredly understood. You know, they aren't pacifists. They have an aggressive and ruthless attitude in nature, such as like those dogs and their fate. I mean, whether they survive or can't, that's ultimately in nature's hand. But they don't seek to completely level forests and fields, and they also don't seek to control them with magic and like bind them, which is one of the great problems that has plagued, well, some would say has plagued the Dragon Empire, that the Archmage, and really the Dragon Empire through the Archmage, has sought to impose its will upon nature with all these innumerable wards to ensure that nothing could attack or harm the Dragon Empire. Nothing could harm civilization as it grew. And perhaps, as I've noted before, had that process been allowed to continue uninterrupted without the wards breaking, nature might have finally been tamed fully and been the obedient dog of the Dragon Empire. But with wards breaking across the entire empire, and the Archmage only just now returning from wherever the fuck he's been, nature, especially under a strong High Druid, has flourished immensely, which was certainly noticeable in when you experienced the vitality of the wild wood compared to the land around it.
Right. So villages would be fine as long as they were like hunters and such instead of agriculture, for example.
Yes, agriculture can be fine in some extent, although they probably do emphasize like fungus growth instead of like fields and what have you. The key tenet, though, is removing all of the wards that attempt to control nature. Let nature live as it pleases, without trying to impose order from a higher plane on it.
Well, there's no problem with that happening. At all, really.
Of course, the counter-argument for the Empire is that had the Empire not done that, perhaps it would have been completely annihilated by all of the various creatures and beasts that would have destroyed it, except they were stopped by the wards.
Well, perhaps the Empire need not stand alone in struggling against whatever monstrous beasts might be there. The High Druid likely does not enjoy wanton destruction of the Iron Sea either.
And
They're equally unnatural.
An alternative argument is that perhaps the civilization of the Dragon Empire deserves to die if it is not strong enough to stand.
All of this would suggest that the High Druid would remain neutral, however. What would like Jasmine suggest if Aranas expressed that he had no trouble envisioning an empire that was not protected by the Archmage's wards, but instead like let nature be free and work with druidic magic to perhaps even let growth be what drove things with.
Jasmine has conflicted feelings for sure. I guess very much matching that of her patron in a sense. She does see, in a sense, a value in the druids being around. They have powerful magic, but on the other hand, from experience, it has not always been possibly from the Empire's fault and possibly not. It's hard to say for sure. We can't recount all history, but it's hard to say for sure how at least easy peace would be and how accepting would people be of it. Not just civilization, which of course has been shown to oppose it, but would the Druids really be happy with it? The High Druid might.
Some would likely and some wouldn't. Right now, however, it seems to be a perfect time for change. There are many desperate people who, if they were given a forest with sort of and allowed to hunt to survive in it, and there were animals who might do the same thing, honestly, then that might make humanity stronger in a way. They would have a way to get food. They would have hope and something to drive them. Even if it was not under the Emperor, but at the guidance of the High Druid as a race, that would still be a boon.
It's worth noting that it's not just humanity which would suffer from this. There are numerous elements of the Dragon Empire. Humans, dwarves, half-elves, gnomes, halflings, elves. Plenty of elves live in the Dragon Empire, too. Like, it's a cosmopolitan thing, this Dragon Empire. This civilization that exists.
The one thing that certainly turned Jasmine towards certainly wanting this, is the fact that she knows Newport's been doing bad. She just saw it for herself. The potential that possibly this might be the solution to it, essentially. If the Druids did aid, Druids might be able to help starve, starve, the reverse. Try and
feed.
Yes, help sustain the people.
Well, the winter has
provide nourishment.
Even if it requires some concession to the woodland, if the people are able to feed, that will solve many issues.
Taraptus actually agrees on this fare. And he says that is why he had spoken so openly with Ajax, who had served as an emissary to Newport ever so long ago. The Dragon Empire, with these problems, seems in part to be folding in on itself. And at the very least, even if it wants to lay claim to this, it simply doesn't have the strength to hold it.
Mm-hmm. It is better to gain an ally than to implode. And if the High Druid had the power to, if allowed, perhaps counteract some of the work of this unnatural winter and bring the natural state of things back to these lands, let the animals eat, let the flowers and plants grow, then perhaps the people could feed themselves in a natural way as they perhaps once did before civilizations were spread this far.
During the several-day trip that leads the party from Newport south to the Wild Wood, Superior Taraptus will convey that he doesn't have a specific destination in mind. He was merely told that when he gets to the edge with his entourage, there will be a druidic escort which will lead all of you and him to the conclave.
Totally, Ajax.
I hope so. He seemed thoroughly reasonable last time we spoke.
I hope it wasn't those dogs that attacked us. Maybe it was a misunderstanding and they were actually our guides.
Aranas, you specifically will also notice off in the distance, perhaps looking around now and again over the days, that those same 8 large, graceful, and colorful butterflies are fluttering alongside, although they do weave in amongst each other and disappear.
All right, well, he will now take this moment of stillness to perhaps look for them.
As Aranas actually, notably, looks and pays attention to them, perhaps they've been following along this entire way, since the party left the city of Newport, and have just been very good and graceful at remaining hidden. After all, who really notices butterflies, right? It's only Aranas who is.
Mm-hmm. In this cold world where Well, what are they doing? Just fluttering around him, or?
They're not fluttering like around him, but they are within sight. They aren't on the road, but they are over like where grass or like fields might be. Or if you're running through like a desolate village, you'll see them like weaving in and out of windows as they are somewhat flanking the party.
All right. Well, Trip should certainly have a druidic envoy. Could speak to him.
Yes, there is.
If it doesn't sort of show anyone for a little while, he will walk over to the butterflies, thinking that, well, they've come this far. Perhaps they have a reason.
And as Aranas, whether like through like trying to approach them on horseback or like trying to like walk towards them over the days, will actually flutter away from him.
All right. Well, perhaps their purpose will appear at some